Hey everyone, I am joined today by my new friend, Megan Sumrell, who I am so excited to chat with because I told Megan before we hit record, I have like 2 pages front and back notes with questions. And that really is a testament to how prepared she showed up for this case study interview with all of the data. So you guys are going to absolutely love our conversation today. And it's a really, really unique top of funnel
Yeah.
strategy that we've truly never covered on the podcast. So before I tease that, Megan, first, I'd love for you to share your Cubicle to CEO story. I know you were just lamenting that you were in a cubicle for far too long. So tell us about that and how you made the leap into entrepreneurship.
I'm 50, so I started my first cubicle experience in the early 90s, and I worked in the IT space for over 20 years. So I'm old enough that I worked in a cubicle with a landline phone, and I know some of you guys aren't able to believe this, but we didn't even have the internet back then. Eventually, over the course of I spent over 20 years in corporate, did manage to, elevate myself to an actual office and get out of a cubicle. And honestly, I loved what I did. I spent the last 7 to 8 years of my time in corporate in the aviation space. And basically, my job would be to go into software teams and create harmony out of chaos, where I would go in and throw away all the systems and processes that they would use to build their products and then help them redefine and build new ones better, faster, cheaper. So, background with a bunch of super nerdy letters behind my name. I always like to say I was a big fish in a really small nerdy pond in my corporate life. But I got married later in life, started a family later. And when my daughter was born, I was juggling work, home life, all of that. When she was about 2, I had a very interesting encounter with a woman at the park one afternoon who very innocently asked me, "What do you do for fun?" And I didn't have an answer. And that kind of rocked me to my core that night. I was taking a look back over the last several years of my life and realizing I was just like walking through the motions, day to day, task list, do it. I looked super, quote, productive to other people, but I was sinking into a pretty bad state of depression and exhaustion. And I just was like, something's got to change. How I'm managing my time this is not sustainable. So, the irony of it is this is kind of what I did for a living. So I thought, hey, Megan, take yourself on as a client. But let's figure out how to get new processes in for our calendar and for our time. And long story short, that launched me into finding my passion and purpose in life, which is helping women get out of this state of overwhelm. So I actually created a proprietary time management and planning framework called the TOP Framework. And I now run a company called the Pink Bee, and I'm on a mission to teach as many women ways to control their time and calendar so they can actually have harmony in their lives again.
That's incredible. I love the direct transfer of all of the skills that you spent decades building in your corporate career directly into a business. And, I feel that many women listening to this podcast can probably relate to that moment of a little bit of an existential crisis where you're like, oh, yeah, what do I do outside of my professional job, or who am I outside of my family roles as a mother, wife, or whatever it may be? So I'm sure you are not alone. But I feel like I now have to ask, like, what is one thing that you do for fun these days?
Well, you're going to love this. About a year and a half ago, I was like, I've always had this dream of wanting to learn how to play the cello. So I started taking cello lessons a year and a half ago. And so I have pockets of time every day where I get to go practice. And that's just one of the things that I've brought back in my life that I do just for me for fun.
That is amazing. One of my sisters played cello. So our house was always filled with like cello, violin, piano music growing up. So I love that for you. I'm so excited. It's such a beautiful instrument. All right, let's get into the case study, Megan, because I have so many questions to ask you. I don't want to waste a minute of your time. So for our listeners, today's case study, we're going to be talking about how Megan launched her own branded app in the App Store. So that's the App Store on your iPhone, or if you have an Android, that's the Google Play Store. And she used this app, the Pink Bee app, as a top of funnel strategy that gets her paid for new leads instead of her paying for new leads. I know that's a little tongue twister, but basically imagine getting new leads injected into your business, but they're paying you to be added as a lead or as a customer into your ecosystem instead of you going out and paying money through Meta ads or whatever it may be to acquire these customers and leads. So, Megan, I hear the genesis for your app was actually from a late night scroll in 2021, right? And this is the funny part. Ironically, you were focusing at that time in your life on finding new ways to generate leads outside of spending money with Meta. So Meta being Facebook ads, Instagram apps, any of their associated platforms. but it was actually a Facebook ad itself,
I know,
right?
right?
For a software that allows you to create your own branded app that came up in your feed one night and it gave you this aha moment. So, what caught your attention about this? And if you can share, what's the software company called that you used to create your own app?
Yeah, so I remember it was over Thanksgiving break, and I was having some, again, I'm older, I was having some hot flashes. So I was kind of awake in the middle of the night. And I'm like, so I'm scrolling, and I caught an ad for a software platform called Passion.io. And they said that you could create an actual branded app in the App Store. Now, my background was in technology. I actually co founded a software company years ago, and I had gone through the rigmarole of building and getting an app out into the App Store before. And I'll tell you what, is not trivial. And so when I saw this ad and they're like, we have a software platform that's essentially going to widgetize this and make it where you don't even have to build your own code, but get your own branded app, it caught my attention initially just from a technology perspective. I'm like, how are they doing that? And the ads were really geared more towards the fitness industry coaches, where they were promoting the app for people to, there's lots of platforms, course platforms out there as well, but they were really promoting it as more of an all-in-one business platform, like build your fitness routines and people can come subscribe and, watch their exercise videos on your phone. But I instantly thought, hey, if I could have something in the App Store that where I could centralize all of my really juicy, good free content. Because, think about it. You go live on Instagram or on Facebook, or, you do a webinar, this and that, and it's scattered all over the place. So if someone's trying to be like, oh my God, I learned this thing from Megan, right? And they don't know where the video was and it's lost in the scroll. So that was my initial thought was, what if I could have a centralized little content hub of all my free goodies that I could push out into the world where I am so easy for people to find, because I tell them it's like having a time management expert in your pocket. So I'm right there on their phone. So that was really what got me interested in kind of checking the platform out.
So smart. Pausing this real quick to let you know, if you want to build your own branded app on Passion, you can check out the free trial link below in the show notes. So it's really a destination experience, right? Like unlike social, where you're flooded with all of these different distractions as you're scrolling, people are going to your app specifically for you. But of course, that begs the question, like, okay, if you're centralizing all of your free content in this app, to you, what is the primary difference between doing that and, let's say, centralizing all of your content on a landing page on your own website, which is still a destination experience? So what specifically about the app you feel like is your advantage in using it?
Yeah, so there's a couple things here with it. One is I get to leverage SEO in the app stores themselves. And especially because I teach on time management and productivity, there's a clear win for me there because people are searching for productivity apps. And I have, using Zaps and whatnot, I can tell when someone joins my email list because they found me from the app. So I can see that people are finding me first on the app, creating an account on the app, and then we can automatically zap them over onto the email list. So the SEO is working right there, whereas you're not necessarily going to have that experience on a landing page per se. Also, when you think about putting it all on a landing page versus an app, people forget the URLs, right? I mean, and sometimes an experience on a mobile device for a landing page, there's a lot of scrolling. It can be difficult to work through all of that. So the fact that when people download my app, anytime they're pulling up their phone, right, they're going to see that pink B right there on their device, and it's going to be a reminder of the content, the courses, and ultimately the business as well. So it's very subtly front of mind in them where I'm pushing to them. They're not seeking me out on a website or on a landing page.
That's brilliant, especially the constant visual reminder of your brand, right? That subtle seeding of that consciousness around your branding is so smart. And you're right, very difficult to do through other avenues. You did also mention this idea of pushing out to them. One of the things I personally think is most advantageous about having an app branded obviously being better, but even an unbranded app is the ability to send push notifications, right? Have you found that to be extra impactful or effective in getting people to actually engage or take action on a CTA?
Yeah, and the way I really leverage the push notifications is one of the things that one of the little mini courses that you get inside the app is teaching a very basic weekly planning process. So we can just send push notifications every week. Don't forget to do your weekly plan and get yourself ready for the week. So they almost feel like they already are my customer. I'm talking to them as if they are. I'm sending them reminders and providing them value in a way that's different than a purchase this or log in over here. And again, I just feel it keeps me very front of mind with everyone that has downloaded the app.
That makes a lot of sense. And a moment ago, actually, you mentioned something that I wanted to circle back to because I think it is important for, I mean, even clarity for myself because I don't have a branded app in the App Store, understanding if someone downloads the free version of your app, because there's that free version and then the option to upgrade to a paid user for $4.99, which we'll get into in depth in just a moment. But if someone's just a free user, when they download the app from the App Store, do you get some sort of notification from the App Store that gives you their email and name that you can then, like you said, create a zap to send over to your email list? Or what is the level of transparency around user data before they become a paying customer that you get access to?
That's all run by Apple and Google Play as well. So we're playing by their rules because they own that data initially. So when someone downloads the app, downloading it, I get no visibility. But in order for them to see anything in there, they have to create an account with a username and password. So if you download the app, you do have to actually log in, we do with most apps today. So as soon as someone creates an account on the app, even though they haven't paid any money, depending upon their setting in the App Store, we have a Zap set up so it will put it on my email list. And if they have that privacy setting on, it's an encrypted email address. So I can't see their actual email address, but I can still send them emails. So if you've ever set up Zaps with app, like if you have that thing set on saying, no, I don't want them, protect my privacy, I don't want people to see my true email, you're still getting on their list, but your email address is going to be like 36 characters long of just characters and numbers. Yeah. So I can't see their first name. I can't see any of that, but I can still email them. And then if they choose to unlock all the free, all the training in the app and pay the one-time fee, then we have another Zap that updates my system to let me know, hey, this person is now converted to a paid app user and they're no longer just a free user.
Got it. And at that point, if they do convert to a paid app user, does that give you the ability then to require them to enter, like it could still be essentially an anonymous email to you on your side, but you're just continuing that relationship with them by sending that email?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. So, okay, I do want to get into the numbers around the actual conversions and obviously also to how much revenue you're generating from the paid users versus people who actually upsell into your own programs. But I do want to first cover the launch process of this app just because it is such a different strategy than we've ever covered on the show. And so I'm sure people have lots of questions. I know I do. So you mentioned that you use this software, Passion.io, to help you do this. And it was way easier than obviously custom coding your own app. But walk us through the actual process, like the build and launch process from start to finish. How much time, how much energy, and how much money did you sink into this app before you launched it in 2022?
Yeah, and I will say their process now for launching into the App Store is far more improved than when I went through it. I was not one of their early software users because they have a full web-based platform, but I was one of the first ones to actually get the branded physical apps in their stores. So the investment for me up front, I just went all in and did the 12-month and it was $1,000 or $997 then. I know their pricing has changed, but I went in and I'm locked in at that rate, which is really nice. So every year I just spend $1,000 to host everything on Passion.io.
That's a great deal.
I mean, it's a steal, especially when you hear how much money I get back out of it every year. So I made the decision to do this. As I said, it was over Thanksgiving. And so that would have been end of November. And I launched the app in January. So the turnaround time for me to get this thing launched was very, very quick and easy. I actually didn't create new content. I just centralized content that I had all over the place. And the way I chose to build it is it's set up they have 3 key features in their platform. One is you can have all your little mini courses or big courses. I just call them mini courses. So I was able to pull, like, I do a couple free workshops every year. So we just took the last recordings from the old workshops and then put them in as, each individual courses in the app. They have a community feature where you can actually, people can engage and comment. I don't use that very heavily, but I do get a lot of people coming in and introducing themselves, etc., on the app. And then again, there's the notification aspect of it as well. They have some gamification in there that just wasn't a great fit for my brand, so I'm really not doing much with it today, but my hope is that they'll blow that up a little bit more, because I would like to be able to have challenges where people can, see how long of a streak they can keep, or they log in and say, yes, I did my planning each week and things like that. It could be a lot of fun.
And what a way to build a habit too, with, again, engaging with your brand on a daily basis if you were able to do that. But continue.
So the process for getting it into the App Store, the software is very easy to use. It's very widget based. You're uploading things and putting your content here, and you've got your own images. But I did have to go through the process of creating a developer account on Apple and a developer account on Google, so that it is me, my business, my name, etc., pushing my app out onto the platforms. And I think in the App Store, it's $99 a year to keep your account, so very little. And Google, I think it was free, because I don't remember getting recurring fee to have stuff up there in the App Store. The initial process for getting the app launched back in the day when I was first doing it with passion, I actually got on the phone with someone from their support team, and we did screen shares, and they walked me through all this weird stuff to get it pushed out. And it was about a 45-minute phone call. And I was very fortunate that usually the very first time you go to push an app out in the App Store, by default, it always just gets rejected. It's just part of their process. And then you resubmit it, and then they're like, okay, you're accepted. Mine actually, we went through we didn't even hit the rejection on either one. So it got approved into the App Store, and then it's live instantly. And now they've streamlined it so well that every week a member of my team just logs in to Passion to see, are there any software updates? If there are, there's a big announcement, and all she does is press a button that pushes all the new updated code out. Like, that's literally all we have to do to get, anytime they make changes to their code base, pushed out to the App Store. So it's very easy to maintain.
So convenient. I love that, even like you said, back then, 2021 was really only 3 years
Way
ago,
back
right?
then, yeah.
But like saying that even then, when maybe it wasn't as refined as it is now, you were, like you said, you saw this over Thanksgiving break and you had it out by January 2022. So, it was really less than 90 days.
And I don't work that many hours every day either. So it's not like I was pushing, burning the midnight oil to get this thing done. I only work 4 to 4.5 hours, 5 days a week. That's it. So I was able to do that while still doing all my other usual stuff.
Okay, that's excellent context. So for anyone listening who's like, ooh, I might want to explore what this looks like from a top of funnel strategy, hopefully that's really affirming, right? Like, you could potentially get this out. I'm sure today, like in the current times, you could probably get it out in like 30 days or less.
Especially if you already have the content, right? Like, if you're having to build content from scratch, well, then you may need to plan in more time for that. But I didn't have to do that.
So good to know also too about the app potentially, going through a rejection the first round, and just to know that's very normal and to resubmit. Is there any other hindsight that you want to share with someone who might be considering creating their own branded app?
Yeah, I would say we didn't nail this the first time I pushed the app out, right? We're always refining and learning. We actually just kind of gave a facelift to it at the beginning of this year, where I was like, all right, I've got better camera quality and things like that. So we kind of re-recorded some of the courses, but have a very clear strategy for yourself of any of the content in the app. What is the purpose for it? Where are you taking them? What do you want their next step to be? And maybe it's just, nothing. Maybe it's just informational. But when you go through and look at all of the mini courses in my app, at the end of every single one, it's a what's next? And so then I tell them, like, here is your next logical step. And everything points into my main program. It might be a little bit of a roundabout way, right? Depending upon where they are in their journey, but I'm not sending people to 12 different programs and 15 different assets. And it's all going streamlined into my one main funnel that sells my signature program.
Do you have visibility by the way, into user behavior on the app? So, like consumption rate of content, watch time, drop off. Can you see any of that information on your end?
Not today. Now, I believe there are some other, I think now they have ways, and I need to check into this, of where you can have your videos hosted outside of the app so that you can get better analytics on your watch time. But today, I don't currently have that information.
Okay, that's good to know because I was going to ask if the answer had been yes, my follow up would have been, and this might just be an interesting data point to track for anyone who does create a branded app, is once someone does ultimately upsell into your primary program that you're trying to drive them to, does their app activity then kind of fall to zero because it's almost like they've completed the mission and they no longer need to utilize that, that free or micro paid content. So anyways, that's just something that was top of mind for me. But like you kind of already previewed this app. So just to re-walk our listeners through the user journey, this app is free to download in the App Store and people can have access to some free content. And then to unlock all the content on the app, a user pays a one-time fee of $4.99. So just about $5.
And when I launched it, I started it at
Oh,
$1.99
wow. Okay.
initially, just to test this thing out, right? And what's crazy is we just upped it to the $4.99 in January, and we're actually getting more than when it was $1.99.
No way. I wonder what the psychology of that is.
I don't know, but sometimes that value, right? Oh, well, there must be, but I did some data research on like how much can I stretch that without it making people go, and basically everyone's like, oh, anything $4.99 or under the App Store, people don't really hesitate to purchase if it's something they want.
That's fair. I'm thinking about my own app behavior, and I've definitely purchased apps that are like $19.99 or like, a little bit more. But I will say even those incremental changes like that jump from $4.99 to $9.99 does give more pause. And you're like, do I really need to spend this $10 today? So yeah, I can see how at a certain threshold, it kind of gets diminishing returns. But so anyways, if someone purchases the paid access, so $4.99, they have access to all the content on the app. But like you said, you're ultimately driving to your top program, which is $597. And is that $597 a year? Is that $597 lifetime for a course?
It's a one-time, it's a course that they get forever.
Okay, awesome. So I wanted to know then, if you're thinking strategically through, okay, the free content is got to lead people to buying the paid version of this app, and the paid version is leading people to your paid program of $600 or a little less than that. What content do you delineate is like making it to different areas, right? So for example, like just the free content up front that people get for downloading the free version of the app, what kind of content do you put there versus the content that you put in the paid version of the app? Can we start there?
Great question. So the way I've designed it is, I think right now we've got either 5 or 6 mini courses in the app. And so I have a video for each one of those that you get for free. So it's basically me telling them, where I'm saying, hey, this particular course is going to teach you X, Y, and Z. Here's how it's broken down. I tease it out a little bit and then let them know. So if you want access to this course, all the information and everything else, it's $4.99. So the free content they get is a little background information about me, along with a intro to each one of the mini programs, so that they really can understand, what am I going to learn out of this? Is it worth paying the $4.99? So that was very, very easy. And so it looks like when they open up the app, they see all the courses right there, and they see a video waiting for them in each and every one where I'm introducing the content to them. And the other way that we're leveraging the content in there that I love is I hold 3 kind of fun free events every year that are, the very traditional join me for a 5-day challenge kind of thing. And 2 of the big ones that I do every year, one is called the One Notebook Challenge, where I teach you how to stay organized with one notebook. And one is called Master Your Morning, where we learn how to create morning routine based on our personality type. And both of these upsell right into my program. They are free live challenges. I run them for 5 days, 30 minutes or less each day. And of course, what is the number one thing that everyone asks before they sign up for anything is, will there be a replay? Like, oh my God, if I could have a nickel for every time someone asks me, will there be a replay? So the way we position it is, hey, you can come join us live, but when the workshop is over, we package up all the replays and we put them in my app. So if you missed it live, you come pay your $4.99. You can come take the One Notebook Challenge today for $4.99. Knock yourself out. And it's a really easy way to keep those live high energy events in an evergreen style. And so every time I do one, we refresh it in the app because I always tweak them up a little bit. So even the current app holders feel like they got something new when we release the new version of the, recorded one notebook challenge. And I keep the sales pitch in there as well. So anyone who misses the challenge, their friend tells them about it. Well, then they go download the app to watch it 3 weeks later. That's selling right into the program as if they were joining me live for the challenge.
Got it. Okay, so brilliant. So essentially, the free version, to recap, of your app is basically one big trailer for all of these other individual, I mean, you're calling them mini courses, but really like any workshops or webinars or things that you've done, and then also replays of the live challenges. So they're kind of teasing what they can expect if they join the paid app. And then do you have any regular freebies in your business that you host on your website, like PDF downloads and whatnot? Are any of those included in the app, or are those totally separate?
No, there is one that's in there. So I have a couple freebies and I use ManyChat a lot on Instagram. So I've got a lot of ManyChat funnels, the traditional drop the whatever, and I'll send you over my thing. So one that has done really well since I first launched the business is called my Ditch the Overwhelm cheat sheet. And so inside of the app, I have the 3-step ditch the overwhelm process with the little video training, and then they can click to download the PDF, and it's just repurposing the exact same. I have ads that run to the ditch the overwhelm cheat sheet, and I have a ManyChat funnel that you can grab it, but it all on the back end feeds into the exact same email sequence nurture, but I'm getting people coming in from all different ways, all into the exact same stuff. So I try and take one thing and then go, how many different places can I put this to attract everybody on all the different platforms?
That makes a lot of sense. Now, over the course of the lifetime of your app, so at this point, what, like 3 years, maybe 2 years, what is the total number of users that you've acquired? I mean, that includes free people. So just total number of people that you have somehow gotten opt-in information for, email, name.
Yeah. So I was actually looking this morning. So I was like, I know when I pulled my data for you before, I'm like, all right, we've had a couple more months over here. So we're at just over 7,000 app users now.
Okay, amazing. This might be too difficult of an ask, but do you remember back to your first 7 days, like the week of the actual app launch in January of 2022? Do you remember how many people you got in those first 7 days?
Yes, I track everything.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Yes. Okay, so first 7 days, what were those numbers like?
Well, I have the first month, and the very first month was 112 app users that came in on that first month. They were almost all existing students and customers.
Okay, I was just going to ask, like, where did those people come from? Okay, good to know.
And I kind of soft launched it to people that already knew me purposefully. I didn't do a big push until I got to see how it worked for a little while with people that were already students of mine that were going to give me a little leeway if things were a little bumpy. And I actually gave it to them for free. So I'm like, hey, you're already students of mine. I'm not going to make you pay the $1.99. Let me know how it goes for you. And so we really didn't do a full push towards like cold traffic, new people until February.
I mean, I think that's really smart too, because if you have people who are already Megan enthusiasts, the Pink Bee enthusiasts, right? Like you have your advocates built into the community on your app. So I'm sure even sometimes, like you were saying, when people ask questions in the Q&A, that some of your existing students are jumping in and being like, oh, hey, you should go check this out. Or like, Megan said this in a training. So I love that you kind of seeded that with people who already trust you and are going to be your best advocates in the app to begin with. So 112, you said first 30 days. What is your average acquisition rate today? Like how many new users per month are you getting?
Yeah, so today we're getting upwards of about 350 new paid app users per month on the app.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How much of that would you say is true cold new traffic versus people from your community who are driven to the app from other places like your email list or your social media channels?
Now, attribution's always so tricky, right, with anything. So we've set it up on the back end where if I am, through Zap, if I'm putting someone onto my email list, we're checking to see, does this email exist in our system? If it doesn't, then we're adding a tag saying they found us through the app. So, assuming people aren't having duplicated emails and all of that, that's kind of all we can assume is that number is there. And right now, I'm just looking up at my numbers. On average, we're getting about 60% cold traffic coming in from the app. So people are first getting on my list through the app. And I think that has, which is great. And I think that has to do with the fact that usually when I'm a guest on podcasts and people say, where can they find you? Of course, I always tell them about my podcast, but I always say, hey, I've got an app in the App Store because it's different. It's not one more funnel to go down. It's not one more PDF that, it usually catches. They're like, you have what? They're like, oh, yeah, I'll go check out the app. And then I tell people it's a way for you to see if my style of teaching resonates with you, right? Does this work for you? And so I think that's where the bulk of our cold traffic through the app comes from, is when I'm on other people's podcasts and things like that.
That's really interesting. I would have assumed falsely that most of the cold traffic to your app was coming just through native search within the App Store or within Google Play Store. The discoverability piece that you mentioned where you can kind of rank for certain keywords.
And it could be, it's my guess, but we'll go in and look and see if I've been on a podcast
You'll
that
see a
has
spike.
had a large reach. We'll see a spike. So I'm like, it's probably because of that podcast.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. Is there anything else that you do besides mentioning the app at the end of interviews and also just depending on SEO searchability in the actual app stores to drive new users to the app?
Yeah, I try and keep it that, a lot of business owners will have kind of our core key things that we teach or talk about when we're interviewed, right? So I have a couple key processes that I have a very clear division on. Here's what you can learn from me for free, but here's what you have to pay with. So all the things that I know I am willing to show up and talk about and teach about for free, I have covered in the app. So that way, if I show up on someone's podcast and I'm teaching them, okay, let me give you an introduction to what I call basic weekly planning. And I teach very happily the free version of that. At the end, I'm like, okay, now if you want, hey, don't worry about taking notes. I want you just to listen to absorb the information because I've got all this broken down for you with videos in my app in the App Store. So you'll be able to go back and get a refresher there. So I'm always seeding people back to what I just taught you here. Go grab in the app and you'll be able to, and I tell them you can actually plan right alongside with me because it's broken down into the step-by-step process. So I very intentionally try and keep what I'm showing up and teaching and presenting as something that aligns with content in the app as well. So people are just naturally, if they liked what they heard, they're going to want to go grab that there so they have it again.
Super strategic and very streamlined for you too, not to have to always come up with new content, right? It is that true repurposing of your core tenants. I also saw that when you had submitted your case study for today's interview that you mentioned you had tested Pinterest ads. Is that correct? Can you walk us through how that's been going for you?
Yeah, so I still want to run ads to my app on Meta. So if you're listening, Mr. Zuckerberg, for whatever reason, we're having technical challenges where their team can't get my app connected. So I was like, oh, that's all right. But what I've done so I get leads at a really low cost on Pinterest, much lower than I do on Meta right now. So I have a number of pins where when you click on the pin, it goes to, I have a landing page for the app. And on the landing page, the button to download the app is smart enough to know what device are you on, and then it sends you directly, to open up and download the app. So we've got ads on Pinterest running to, hey, let me tell you about, here's everything in this great app. And then, so then when they click on it, it's just a 2-tap for them to be able to download the app. And we're getting conversions into the paid app right now at just under $4. That's what we're profiting. So we're getting our paid app. I'm just getting our latest data from yesterday. Right now, averaging out about $1.11. So, I'm paying $1.11 for them to unlock it at $4.99. They're like giving me money to get on my list. And these are people that have already self-selected, I want to learn this content, and I'm willing to invest a little money to do that. So they're just better quality leads as well.
100%. And I mean, that's like my version of a dream unlimited ATM essentially, right? Like imagine every time you put in $1, you get $4 out. I mean, if that is a true scenario and that's scalable, it's like at that point, it's becomes a game of how much capital can I find to feed into this ATM, right? To pump out 4 times as much. So that is so cool. Is this something that you're just beginning or have you started to see the same numbers hold true at scale? What's the vision here?
So I am a super risk adverse person. So ads is like gives me heart failure, which is why I want to have so many other ways to get people into my world and just not rely on them. So that's been a big focus of mine on 2024 is to level up my scarcity mindset around marketing ad spend. And we have now consistently seen this kind of this rate for 5 months. So we have really started jacking up the ad spend that we're putting out there towards it.
That is incredible. If you feel comfortable sharing, what is the average monthly ad spend that you are paying into Pinterest ads right now?
So you're going to laugh. When I first started, I was like, I am willing to spend $25 a day.
That's a very healthy budget. I mean, that's what, like almost $900, right? A month. That's not a shabby budget. Yeah.
But when I can see month after month after month that these people are like, it is consistently happening. So we're now scaling it up upwards of more like $200 to $300 a day
Oh, wow.
on Pinterest. And I am being gently nudged, like, we can do more, but I was like, I just have to do this in my own, where I feel comfortable. Yeah. Because I'm also spending, I'm also juggling ad spend over on Meta as well. And so it's always kind of that balancing act.
That's so interesting to me. Like that's a cool thing about I think Pinterest is it's very unpredictable sometimes, but when you have a pin that just hits it off, you can really I mean it has a very long cycle. Like we have this one random organic pin running to our blog that is like a curated list of books written by female authors. And for whatever reason, like we created this pin back in like I think 2021 and then in 2024 it just like popped off and we're getting like thousands of clicks a month to our site from it.
Yeah, and it's, planning, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like people are on Pinterest looking for solutions for that. So it's a really smart play for me to have that there.
Right. Really, really good audience match for you. Okay. Thank you, by the way, for being so transparent. That's really helpful because I know sometimes people hear these really great like acquisition costs and then they're like, but what kind of budget does that require to really see that? So I do really, really appreciate you being willing to share that. Let's talk a little bit about the funnel side of your stats. So you said about 7,000 lifetime users who have downloaded and opted into the app in some way, whether free or paid. What percentage of the free users convert to paid users on the app?
We get about 80% that will then convert to the paid, which is great. Because I mean, if they don't do anything, they're still on my list because they've created the account. So we're still be able to nurture them there. Yeah. And then the last time, again, if attribution is right, we are then seeing of those paid users, we're having just under 8% that have eventually turned into full program sales of the 697. So, when I was doing all my little number running, around 300,000 in revenue from people through the app over to the program.
Amazing. $300,000. Wow.
I mean, it's hands off. Like it truly, and I know you had a while back, you had Nikki on as a guest. Well, I went through her program and built a circuit for my program. So the app ultimately feeds people right into that circuit, as does basically anything I put out there all comes back through there. But the fact that we can see, we've had about 300,000 in revenue from the program, from the app feeding in, but then we also have revenue for the program feeding in through other points of entry as well.
It's so cool to see how someone who paid you $5 essentially can upsell into a $600 program like that. Like it's such a huge leap when you look.
It's not a stair step. I don't value ladder them. I'm just here's the program. And then I have physical planners that usually when they buy the program, they usually then go over and get the physical stuff as well.
And I think that's really just a testament to it's not so much about how much someone transacts with you on that first purchase. It's more so building that trust of, oh, if I give you any amount of money, whether it's $1, $10, $100, are you going to actually deliver on what you say you will deliver? Can I trust you and your teaching and your credibility? And I think once you have that on lock, it's so much easier to then upsell that customer to a second purchase, even if the second purchase is eons and leaps in investment compared to that first transaction. And so for all of our listeners, just keep that in mind. The best thing you can do is like get a buyer on your list early, and whatever that amount has to be for that first entry level purchase, even if it was like Megan started with $1.99, it's not about the money that you're getting on that front end. It's about getting that customer relationship so that you can then sell a better fit solution for them on the back end. But I mean, the $4.99 is still nothing to laugh at, right? Like you've still made a decent amount of money from just the front end of the app. Do you know your totals to date?
Well, when I was pulling together the latest numbers, we have actually had over, well, now it's actually increased now to over $35,000 of revenue just through the app over the course of just over 2 years. And yeah, I mean, people will be like, oh, I mean, think about it. I'm not spending $35,000. I feel like I'm being paid to get people onto my list. And they're people that want to be there. They are opting in to learn from me. So I know they're a good fit.
Huge win, huge win. I mean, yeah, imagine getting paid an income stream of, I mean, $35,000 was like, I think what I made out of college, my first job. So like imagine getting paid an annual salary.
That's more than I made. And that's funny. Like I remember my first college job was $16,500. That was my starting salary in the IT space. But again, I'm old. So
but still, yeah, like it could be like a full-time salary, right? And depending where you live and whatnot and where you are in your career. But to get paid that to, like you said, add 7,000 people to your email list, add 7,000 people into your customer ecosystem is just such a cool strategy. I'm blown away, honestly. This is a really, really interesting top of funnel strategy.
I love that you wanted to talk about it because I'm always sharing with people. I'm like, oh, you got to get an app. And they always look and they're like, I don't really see it. I'm like, oh, you're missing out.
Just wait till people hear this episode. You know what? Next time someone gives you that reaction, just go listen to this interview and then you tell me after if you still don't want to give this a try.
Well, it was interesting because the CEO of Passion itself reached out and interviewed me because I'm using their app not in the way that they designed it. So even they were intrigued, like, okay, so how are you using this thing again? So like you're missing the boat. Like I think they ought to start talking about that as really a cool top of funnel strategy.
So cool. And thank you again, Megan, for being willing to share this case study.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite part about this show, honestly. And you listeners, you already know this, but we love how our guests, CEOs like Megan, are willing to come on and give us a peek behind the curtain at their own strategies that they're using to grow their business. So even though Megan is a time and productivity expert, she was willing to come on to our show and talk about how she's growing her business with this top of funnel strategy instead of, spending an hour talking to us about her signature framework around productivity or time management. So I know that's a huge ask of our guests. And I, again, really appreciate it. So Megan, I probably already know what you're going to say here, but where should our listeners?
I'm going to say to go download the app, but truly, I want you all to download it to put on your marketing hat for yourself and your own business and go, okay, how could I play this out? But also if you're listening, clearly you're a podcast listener as well. So I would love for folks to come join me over on the Work-Life Harmony podcast too.
Love the use of the word harmony over balance. You guys know how I feel about that. So anyways, all of Megan's links will be below in the show notes. Make sure you go check that out. Go send her a DM today. Say hi, say thank you if you plan to test out this strategy in your own business. Megan, thank you for your time. And we will catch all of you in our next episode.
Thank you.
Also, a quick reminder that if you want to test Megan's top of funnel strategy for yourself and create your own branded app on Passion, we have a free trial link below in the show notes. Check it out.